Welcome, beautiful human, to the very first episode of the Magic Pause podcast. And I'm your host, Annalena Fuchs. And I'm super delighted to be with you all. And some of you may already know that this podcast is the continuation of the formerly known The Art of Slowing Down podcast. And it just has come about over the last 6 months or so that I felt a name change is needed, but I still love the message of slowing down. And so to take it to the next level, I felt that the magic pause was just the right thing to name this podcast. And in my own life and also my journey as an online entrepreneur, both slowing down and taking intentional pauses has really been that secret success recipe, if you ask me. And also when I work with my clients, it's always so deeply profound because as a highly sensitive and also quite empathic person, I just tend to take on a lot of the energies that are around me. And when I'm not really careful, what I notice is happening is that I kind of feel disconnected from myself and my own truth because I mean, in today's world, it's almost inevitable, right? There's so much noise. There are so many opinions. There are so many distractions all around us that I really believe they lead to this utter exhaustion because there's just too much stuff out there. And if we're trying to catch up with everything that's out there, right, we're going to be busy all day and we're totally missing the point, and we probably haven't even listened at all to what our heart wants or what God wants you to do in this lifetime. And I truly believe that you and I and every single human on this earth came here for a very unique purpose. And that purpose is never found outside of yourself. It's actually not something you have to go find and seek. I truly believe that the more you listen to yourself, and that's why taking intentional magic pauses throughout your day on a consistent basis is so important, because you connect to your heart, you connect to your body, you connect to what feels right to you. And I also really believe, because through my teachings with human design, gene keys, and also Kabbalah, I have really developed a much deeper connection to God, to source, universe, however you like to call it. And I believe that we came here on this earth for a very specific reason. And your human design, on the other hand, it kind of shows you how unique you are and how different you are. And that's something also I had to realize. And like, wow, I better use my gifts, right? And so with this podcast in particular, my big intention is also to be of most service to you, to your listeners, and to humanity. And so what is my biggest gift? You always notice what your biggest gift is when something really energizes you. It just lights you up from within yourself. And it almost feels like time is flying by and you could just keep doing it and doing it. And for me, as I have been an online entrepreneur now for over 6 years, I can very clearly say that it is when I teach. This is also why I love to teach on this podcast, and especially when I teach in communication with other people, right? And especially also when I have a client coaching session. That can be a one-on-one session, but it can also be a group environment. And I enjoy it so much, and I have seen such profound transformation with my clients that I have decided now that I also want to bring this element more into this podcast. So with that, let me share with you what you can expect going forward as you listen to this podcast. So I will continue to share my wisdom and teachings about human design, gene keys. I may also bring in over time some Kabbalistic concepts, and also, very important, my deeper connection to God. This is just something that has become more and more profound for me on my journey. And I really feel like it is also my purpose to keep sharing more about this, because I did another episode about this a few weeks ago, but I know that from when I was growing up, the whole topic about religion and God was very fear-induced for me. I could not access this. And for years and decades, I couldn't find any connection to it. But through human design and Gene Keys in particular, and also Kabbalah, I have found a more deeper connection to, or really understand what is really meant, what is also written in the ancient scriptures, like in the Bible. And I'm super, super grateful for that. And I have already received a lot of feedback from some of my colleagues and friends, because they told me after I did the episode of like, wow, I really feel so much like you. And thank you so much for sharing this, you know? And I really think that's what it's all about. So, like I said, I will continue teaching about those things. And for that, I actually invite you. So I'm going to put a link here below this episode, and also this will be there going forward. It's a form where you can submit topic requests. So what do you want me to talk about on this podcast? Because I really want to make it more about you guys. What is something that you're really interested in? What is maybe something that you're stuck with or you're confused about? And yeah, I just love to receive questions and I love to respond. And I think that's just super powerful. So that's the first thing that I want to switch up. The other thing is, because I love coaching so much and I have seen so much transformation when I work with my clients, you will also now have the opportunity to come on my podcast to be coached by me. So you will receive a full coaching session on this podcast. Of course, you have to be okay that this will be going out onto this podcast and onto my YouTube channel, but also trust that as you share your challenges and allow me to coach you through those, so you can have a more empowering story about yourself and you can connect more to what is right for you, it will also be super, super helpful for all the listeners. And also it's because I know in my heart, like not everyone can always afford having a one-on-one coach, right? And I want to make this, with this podcast, a little bit more accessible. So right now I'm thinking I will probably do it about once a month, where one of the podcast episodes will be a coaching session. And I want to also share with you a little bit about my approach with coaching. So the majority of my clients that come to me, they always tell me that they love my approach of being so calm and grounded and really giving them the space to actually slow down and take pauses so that they can find their unique path. And this is really why the pausing is so magical for me, because when you take the time to connect to what feels right to you, and in the moment, you may feel like, oh, I'm slowing down too much. I'm behind. Everybody else is already ahead of the game and I should be further ahead, right? That's often the story we have. But those that have the courage to actually slow down enough so they can connect to what feels right to them, then you shift. You shift the direction into the path of your really aligned purpose. And I really believe when you take action then on this path, where it feels right to you, even though the world may tell you, no, you should do something else, or no, this is the next success formula, but you know deep inside you have to go this way. And when you take action here, that's when I notice it becomes effortless and you experience more ease and flow in your life, in your business, and all these synchronicities are showing up because God, life, universe is literally like, yay, you're on your path. That's where I want you to be. And there's more support. On the flip side, when we continue to get too influenced by all these opinions out there, and let's be real, there's a lot of opinions out there, and we may hustle, we may grind, we may try all the things and work really hard. And we may see some outward success, but maybe then deep inside we feel really unfulfilled and we just feel really off, especially because we know, well, I did this, but I know I cannot sustain it because it's just way too much hard work that I put into it. Plus, it feels unaligned. It just is not aligned with the unique talents and gifts that you were equipped with, right? And even when you are working more in the direction towards your aligned purpose, where things are more flowing, you can still work hard, right? But the energy behind is going to be way different because it will still bring you joy. And even though you have times where you want to get out of your comfort zone and everything, there's this overall sense of inner knowing that you are on the right path. And again, on the flip side, when we are just really, really busy doing the things that we think we should do because that's what we're being told and that's what the opinions are out there, and we just buy into that without taking a pause and actually listening to ourselves, then we may waste a lot of precious time chasing the wrong thing and actually overexerting our energy. And we may have unnecessary challenges and obstacles, right? Because in a way, I always see it that God or universe is like trying to make us aware of like, hey, you're off track here. I want you to actually not be here. That's why I'm making it so hard, you know? And my clients always tell me how thankful they are that I help them bring them back home to who they are, right? And allow them to build a business. And it may be a little bit slower than, again, what our mind thinks it should be, but at least it's into the right direction. And I think that's the most beautiful foundation we can have. And I always just get so lit up and I feel so much joy in my heart when I hear this from my clients, because it also tells me that, yeah, that's something special. And I can tell you, just full disclosure, I still struggle with seeing my own magic at times, you know, and, you know, publicly announcing this is also a step out of my comfort zone a little bit, to also acknowledge this a little bit more, because like I said, I really feel I have an obligation. Like, this comes to me so easy, I guess for a good reason, so that I can share it with more ease and on a bigger, wider level, where just people, when they listen also now to these coaching sessions here on the podcast, they will start to realize also how important it is for them to not just follow always the hottest trend and the next opinion that's out there, but go inward, take that magic pause and really connect to with what feels right to you so you can shift into the right direction. And I always use an analogy oftentimes in my coaching programs and with my clients, and I want to share it with you guys as well, is that imagine there is a boat on the ocean and the boat is just going into one direction, right? But it's off path. Let's say it's the wrong direction, but it keeps going. It uses all the fuel. It uses a lot of power to get to a certain destination. But again, when it arrives, like after maybe 7 days of really hard work and going through a lot of waves, maybe there was a big storm along the way, it realizes, oh, I wanted to go, like it just feels off. Like you feel like you're at the wrong place, basically. And you feel like you have to start from all over again. Now, if the boat or the ship would have taken a pause and like really felt into, okay, where do I really want to go? Like what direction actually feels right to me? So here we have that magic pause. And then, okay, let me just shift 15 degree, right? So you just move around, you take that time. It realigns, right? And then the boat goes into the other direction. And here still there may be a little bit of a storm, but overall the whole journey is a little bit smoother. There's still some obstacles. You still have to go through the night and the dark, and then the sun is coming up again, right? So it's a whole journey. But then you end up, so for example, instead of London, you end up in Johannesburg in Africa, right? Because instead of going up here, you went down here. So this is just what I want you to keep in mind when it's about you and your life, which is so precious, right? The time we have here on this earth is the most precious we have. And we are always so busy chasing the next success hype and this outwardly success, right? And when you can take that moment and realign and really go inward, and I think it will also require sometimes like a realignment again over time, right? But I think the more intentional pauses we take in our life, the more easy it will get for you to really, yeah, flow with the river of your purpose that you were destined to go on. And I also personally am super inspired by Eckhart Tolle's teaching. I mean, the power of now. He has been one of the teachers that have been following along since I started my coaching journey. And I always knew there's something so profound. And when I first read his book and listened to his audios, I understood it, but I couldn't really feel it in my body, right? I couldn't embody it. And now, after all of these years of having experimented with how it actually feels when I take action, when I just follow what somebody else told me I should do, or when I come from this place of, more my ego, right? Where it's like, oh, I'm just going to do this to make money, or I have to do this to prove it to myself. Like that's always kind of the wrong energy. But then when I always had the courage to be fully aware in this present moment and take intentional pauses and slow down more, then I was able to find my unique path and my unique way. And then things just magically unfolded so much better and so much smoother. So I'm so thankful that life has been showing this to me, and the people that I seem to attract, you as listeners and the clients that I work with, and, my audience on Instagram as well. I just have noticed that I'm not the only one that feels like this. And I just find that this message in today's world is just becoming more and more important, because I think every day we just have more information out there. And even like you listening to my podcast is such an honor. I thank you so much for your time. And I'm going to do the best that I can not to just over dump you with information that gets you confused or telling you things that you should do. My really big intention of this podcast is quite the opposite. I want to help you to question things, even the things that I'm saying, like always go back to like, what's your truth? What feels right to you? And I want to empower you to live more intentional, to literally take magic pauses throughout your day. So for example, when you wake up in the morning, it's so easy, right, to get caught up in the busy mind and have this long to-do list and then already feel the pressure, and we go hustle and grind throughout the day. But if we were to start the day with slowing down and taking a magic pause, and this could look like looking out of the window and seeing a beautiful sunrise. It could look like you're just journaling a little bit. Maybe you have a little conversation with God, whatever that looks like for you. But it is so incredibly powerful. And then also when you can set a powerful intention in the morning. One of the biggest teachings in the Gene Keys in the Pearl sequence is this overarching question of how can I be of service? This is really like, this has a lot to do with our life purpose. We came here to share our unique gifts with the world so we can help other people. We didn't come here just to feed our ego and do it all for ourselves, right? And you probably know how life goes when we just worry always too much and just think about ourselves. But when you get into the zone of helping other people and sharing your gifts, you know probably for yourself how much more fulfilled you feel and how just better life goes, because that's what life, I believe, wants from us, to share these gifts we have. We weren't given those gifts to hold them back, right? So just when you can bring this into how you start your day in particular, I think it's so powerful. And anytime when I feel pressure, right? When I feel like, oh, I have to do all these things, that's especially when I have to take a pause, because I have noticed that when I rush, because I want to get rid of the pressure that I may feel, then I tend to make mistakes, things are not going really well, and then I actually have more work at the end of the day. But when I can take an intentional pause, to take a deep breath. I love to go outside for a little walk in nature or sit by the lake, hear the birds singing, super therapeutic and blissful. And when I then come back to here, right now, my computer, and record a podcast or work on a social media post or some other thoughts I want to share with my audience, it's so much more powerful and it comes out of me so much more effortlessly. And that's just not something I want to ignore. But like I said, I want to keep sharing it with you guys. So with that, again, I want to welcome you to this new journey of the Magic Pause. And, while I did over 166 episodes with the Art of Slowing Down, we're actually beginning here with episode 1. That also feels a little bit scary to me because I felt so proud, like, oh, I have built up this momentum, but the momentum is there. It's just going to be, this is the second season of this podcasting journey. And like I said, this is episode 1. So with that, I'm super curious to see what are some of the topics you would love for me to talk about on this podcast. don't be shy. You are more than welcome to ask anything. I still will decide what I will respond to and what feels right at a certain time to talk about. And then also, you're invited to be coached by me on this podcast. And I'm just open to the possibility and see what other beautiful things will unfold from that. So, with that, I'm super delighted to be with you all on the next episode of the Magic Pause podcast. Just so you know, there will also still be some interviews that I will doing with people that are very aligned with the overall theme of this podcast, because I also love having conversations with other humans and getting to know people and making new connections. And I know you also have been enjoying this a lot in the past. And with that, I will be with you all on the next episode. Bye, everyone.